Arnab Goswami on The Debate.
On the show tonight, why China has double standards and why Xi Jinping must first declare who was Mao's reincarnation before claiming that he will decide who the Dalai Lama's reincarnation will be. And first, ladies and gentlemen, we need to call out China's double standards. China is being extremely hypocritical. It has double standards. It's a country that does not believe in religion, and yet it is getting hyper and going ahead saying that it is going to decide who the Dalai Lama's reincarnation is going to be. Now, they've been getting very, very hot under the collar and trying to threaten people and saying that if India tries to interfere in the process of the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama, it's not going to be good, blah, 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 blah. Now, the point is this, and I'm addressing the Chinese. How can anyone decide where the Dalai Lama is going to be reborn apart from the Dalai Lama himself? And if they're so interested in deciding everyone's reincarnation, then maybe Xi Jinping should start, and I mean it, I address every person in China. Every citizen in China should rise up in revolt against Xi Jinping unless Xi Jinping declares who Mao's reincarnation is and whether it is the Chinese Communist Party that has been suppressing who Mao's reincarnation is. Because every Chinese premier is worried that Mao's reincarnation will take over their job. For that matter, maybe Xi Jinping should also announce who Deng Xiaoping's reincarnation is. If they're so interested in deciding who Dalai Lama's reincarnation is, then they should begin with Mao. Now, does Xi Jinping have the courage to do that? He does not. My second point tonight is this: there's no point trying to interfere in matters that are not your business. And this is to the Chinese. I would say keep your self-respect and go home. You're going to be embarrassing yourself. And I hope this video reaches the Chinese, despite all the attempts of the Chinese government to suppress information that may awaken their people. I would like to tell the Chinese people, please tell your government to stop embarrassing itself like it had done when it tried to interfere in the abrogation of an Article 370, which we did to fully integrate Kashmir with India. That's none of your business, Xi Jinping. And in 2019, when our Prime Minister visits Arunachal Pradesh, they have problems. It's no problem. I don't understand. We don't talk to and tell Xi Jinping when he has to go to Shanghai or not. Arunachal Pradesh is as much a part of India as Shanghai is a part of China. But a broader message needs to go to the Chinese. This is a new India. Don't try and talk down to us. Don't try and create trouble with us, because you're going to be creating trouble for yourself. The second point is, and logically speaking, the Chinese government is anti-religion. It does not believe in religion. It imposes restrictions on religion. Religion is tightly controlled. Religious groups are closely under a watch. That is the ideology of the Chinese Communist Party. It is officially an atheist nation. How does an atheist nation want to decide what is a purely, innately religious process, such as the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama? That's so hypocritical. That's so wrong. I think unless Xi Jinping says that Buddhism is going to be the state religion of China and we are not going to be an atheist country, a communist country, he should not talk. Secondly, even within the restricted framework of religion within China, the bottom line is the Chinese branch of Buddhism does not believe in reincarnation. Chinese Buddhism is very different from Tibetan Buddhism. Chinese Buddhism is called Han Buddhism. It does not include a reincarnation system. Now, unless Xi Jinping wants to change the essentials of Han Buddhism, he cannot do something which says, my government, which does not believe in reincarnation, Chinese Buddhism, which does not believe in reincarnation, now wants to have IP rights and a patent over the process of reincarnation. That's unacceptable. As I said, first, Xi Jinping should declare who the reincarnation is of Deng Xiaoping, who died in 1997, and why Xi Jinping has suppressed that information, or for that matter, who the reincarnation of Mao is, who died in 1976. Now, why the Chinese are getting so worked up is because China invaded Tibet in 1950. This is 2025. At that time, the Dalai Lama was 15 years old. Today, he's 90 years old. And he's saying, I'm going to decide where I'm going to be reincarnated. This entire controversy is actually, I would say, reminding the Chinese of their failure to crush the spirit of the Tibetan people, the independent spirit, the fighting spirit, the ideologically unswerving spirit of the Tibetan people, which generations before and generations after Xi Jinping will continue to try to crush, and they will fail. So Xi Jinping knows that he's been an utter failure. He can't do anything on Taiwan. He cannot do anything on Tibet. His time is running out. His economy is falling. He's fighting with the Americans. He's fighting with everyone. He's unpopular even in the global south. And India has always stood by Tibet, and all the suppression of the Tibetans has failed. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are a few straight questions to the Chinese. Don't poke your business in other people's affairs. And Tibet is not your business. Not your business. This message is to the Chinese. Please spread it so it reaches the Chinese Communist Party and they understand where not to cross the line.
Happy 90th birthday, Your Holiness. The world is forever grateful.
His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama turned 90 years old yesterday, and the entire nation joined Dharamshala in the festivities. Union Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Minority Affairs Kiran Rijiju alongside Union Minister Rajiv Ranjan were in attendance to wish His Holiness along with the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh.
His Holiness' teachings have influenced our governance philosophy. We draw inspirations from his principles of compassion and non-violence in shaping policies that promote harmony and collective well-being.
However, the Chinese were not at all pleased by India's unwavering support to the Dalai Lama. They even objected to the Prime Minister extending birthday wish to His Holiness.
我们希望印方充分认识到摄藏问题的高度敏感性，认清14世达赖的反华分裂本质，恪守在摄藏问题上的承诺，谨言慎行，停止利用摄藏问题干涉中国内政，避免影响中印关系的改善和发展。
China's strong reaction comes just days after the Dalai Lama broke his silence on the reincarnation question and said that the institution of Dalai Lama will continue. India's position on the matter is very clear.
Dalai Lama institution is purely religious, and I have come here as a devotee, and it is a religious matter. And Government of India believes that there should be no interference into the religious matter. I don't want to react on the Chinese statement, but my position is very clear that we leave everything to His Holiness Dalai Lama for his guidance.
But China is up in arms, especially against the Tibetan government in exile.
所谓西藏流亡政府是一个分裂主义的政治集团，惯于编造摄藏的谣言、谎言，没有任何公信力可言。活佛转世是藏传佛教特有的传承方式， 达赖、班禅等大活佛转世，都是按照严密的宗教仪轨和历史定制，根据国内寻访、金瓶撤迁、中央政府批准的原则开展的。
With the dragon fearing of losing its control over the Tibetan narrative, with the Dalai Lama choosing his reincarnation to be born outside Tibet, the Dalai Lama has put China in a tough spot. The only question remains, with China repeatedly interfering in India's internal matters and violating territorial sovereignty of India with CPEC, illegal occupation of Shaksham Valley and Aksai Chin, and illegal renaming in Arunachal Pradesh. Why is the dragon so scared of the sacred Buddhist monk?
Here we are joined this evening by Penpa Sering. He's the elected head of the Tibetan government in exile. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Sik Kyong of the Central Tibetan Administration. Mr. Sering, thank you very much. Thank you. You hold immense power.
Thank you for having me.
And you are truly the representative of the Tibetan people. How do you view China's nervousness about the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama?
I think that is the power of nonviolence and truth combined together, and with persistence. The nonviolence is a means to resolve all kind of conflicts. If you look at the violent conflicts that are going on around the world today, you don't know whether you are really resolving one problem or you are creating more problems for future. So nonviolence as a means is very powerful, and when you have truth on your side, historical truth on your side, then it really jitters the Chinese, because they are on very thin ground when it comes to the historical status of Tibet, the continued repression of the Tibetans inside Tibet, destruction of the Tibetan people's identity, the language that came from India, the Tibetan language came from India, Devanagari script in 7th century, and we transliterated almost every available Sanskrit and Pali Buddhist text from 8th to 13th century before Buddhism almost vanished out of India. So we are proud to be one part of ancient Indian wisdom, and that even that China claims that it came from China, which is totally false claim of the origin of Tibetan Buddhism, even though Buddhism did spread to China some 3-4 centuries before. But the Tibetan Buddhism that we practice in Tibet is the Nalanda tradition of Buddhism here in India. So we are proud to be a repository of one part of ancient Indian wisdom, and all these, I think, angles of...
they're issuing threats, Mr. Sering. They're almost sounding violent in their language. You talk about non-violence. However, they say their argument is that the Chinese Communist Party will decide the reincarnation as per Chinese law. Now, there was no Chinese Communist Party in ancient Buddhist tradition. So I don't know where the logic is, but they claim that only the Chinese premier has the right to decide the next Dalai Lama. Is there anything historical or by precedent which can, sort of strengthen their claim? I find none.
Yeah, there are three claims that China is making. One, that they will look for His Holiness reincarnation within China or within Tibet. And there you already have cases of the third Dalai Lama being born in Mongolia. You have the sixth Dalai Lama born in India, in Tawang. So you have earlier Dalai Lamas who have been born outside Tibet. So that is, again, a false claim that they should look for only. That is why the response from His Holiness is that he will be born in a free world. The second thing the Chinese government says is that they should use the golden urn. Now, golden urn was introduced only in 1793 when there was some influence of the Manchus over the Tibetans way back in 1793. But there were 8 Dalai Lamas before 1793, and there were Dalai Lamas up to the 14th. So does the Chinese government to say that the 8 Dalai Lamas before 1793 were not Dalai Lamas? In that case, that was the real tradition of how we select the Dalai Lamas. Chinese interfered, but even then it was a Qing dynasty and they were Buddhists. But right now, the government that wants to interfere in the selection of what they call as living Buddhas or reincarnated Lamas in our case is completely absurd.
Do you think the Tibetans, will face more repression, more violence from the Chinese? I mean, those who are there under Chinese occupation, Chinese after the invasion. Do you think the Tibetans there will face more repression? Because the Chinese have killed so many Tibetans over the years. All those who resist them have been killed and imprisoned, and they've been, estimates are up to 100,000 Tibetans killed. Lhasa is under curfew. Do you think things will get worse going forward with the Tibetans who are under Chinese occupation?
So far, the Tibetans have remained non-violent. It's mainly because His Holiness restrains them from taking up violence, because His Holiness says that if you take up violence, then I will no more be responsible for... we often get asked question whether Tibetans will get radicalized because of too much repression from the Chinese side. That's very much possible. If this 14th Dalai Lama has to die in exile, I think that will strike a lot of emotions within Tibet, and there will be nobody else to control the Tibetans inside Tibet as much as His Holiness used to do so. So we are afraid of what could be the consequences if His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama has to die in exile.
Well, we wish him a long life. And we wish an end to Chinese repression.
His Holiness is committed to living long. He keeps reassuring us that he will live for 2 decades and more. And in the last 1-2 months, he has been saying, I'll live up to 130. So I keep telling the Chinese, this message is for you. You're waiting for this Dalai Lama to die.
It's so terrible to behave like this,
Very long.
Wish him a long life.
We have to decide now.
They should wish him a long life, but they're so insecure.
Whether communism outlives His Holiness or His Holiness outlives His Holiness, that is something we have to watch out.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Sering. Thank you very much. That's the President of the Tibetan government in exile, Penpa